I started the use Freemium to drive awareness in users. Was sold to AVG in 2 years at 6 times initial value to the investors. And most recently, he was at Avira, which is a partner of ours, which has over 100 million users.
Thank you. First thing I think I have to do is apologize for this. This really sounded much better in my head. That's kind of weak. Sorry. So here's a little bit about my background, the places that I've been, and some of the things that I've done. Primarily the context is consumer security. Started doing freemium in 2000. My current activity is as an advisor to a consumer cloud play. And what I'm going to do is walk through some experiences that I've had, both good and bad, in each one of these stops. If you guys have any questions, you can just shout them out or wait till the end. So what are the advantages of freemium? Who here knows who Walt Mossberg is? Walt Mossberg is a journalist, very influential in consumer technology. He used to write for the Wall Street Journal. And he was a big fan of the first company that I worked at in the freemium space called Zone Labs and our free product Zone Alarm. And Walt would come to the website from time to time to download updates. And one day he came to the site when we were playing our favorite game of where's the free product? And sometimes we'd be on the home page, and then sometimes we'd put it somewhere, go over, stuff it underneath the sofa, see what would happen, see if people could find it, and see if we could actually increase the number of people that purchased the product because they really couldn't find the free product. I'm not proud of it. That's just what we did. And Walt Mossberg wasn't too happy with that. And he wrote about it in the Wall Street Journal. That was great. So I got called down to the principal's office and got yelled at, and then blamed it all on Chad. See, I blamed it on Chad, and we worked together. Took one for the team. But people like Walt are a double-edged sword. They have, they're very particular about what they want, and the upside of the value that they create is huge. And the freemium play here is the freemium allows your users to become advocates. That they are allowed to, not everybody, Walt Mossberg doesn't say this about a lot of products, but the idea of use and recommend. Freemium is a huge advantage of lowering the barrier to advocating for a product. That I can tell you, yeah, go out and get it, and it's not coming with a $30 or a $50 or an $80 investment. So this is really a huge advantage, especially when you're starting out. Now, sometimes you got a free product. And after Zone Labs, I went to a company called Tenable, and we released a free product called Spycatcher. And I learned two things. One is software is like sushi. If it's mediocre, you don't hear about it, I had you gotta go to this place, I had great sushi. Stay away, you don't want to go to that place. In the middle, it's a wasteland, there's nothing there. And freemium is not a way to find a loophole into the market. If your product is not good, free is not going to make it better. And I was at this company for 11 months. We had pretty much one shot to get this free product into the market, and it was average. And we shut it down, and we had to go on to the next thing. And the next thing was a company that I started called Exploit Prevention Labs, also in the consumer security space. And we were using free as a way to penetrate the market, not to build up a user base and then convert them at X% and make some money. But what we wanted to do was get market data from our users and prove that the threat that we were protecting against existed. Now, market data comes in all types, all shapes and sizes, and varying values. What we were able to find from having, we didn't have millions of users. We had about 100,000 users. But we were able to detect these web scams that were being played that could only be detected in a certain way. And this one was great because, relatively great. The cyber criminals were buying ads on Google AdWords and hard-coding these URLs to go to Better Business Bureau. And it would say, click here to learn how to protect yourself from online threats, and you'd click there, and they'd send you through a redirect server, which would throw all these viruses at you, and then drop you at betterbusinessbureau.com. So it was, you wouldn't even know you were getting attacked, and it was great. And we told people that this was happening, and Google said it's not happening. None of the journalists believed us. But because our users had the product on their machines, and it wouldn't have worked if there were only 100, but we didn't need 10 million. The data that we collected, we were able to prove, look, this is happening. And we got a tremendous amount of press. We were sort of hoping that Google would buy us to make us go away, but that really didn't happen. But this is really the value of the market data. And you can derive data, any type of data that will benefit the decision-making of your business, you can derive. And having a free product will help you get onto the machine and get that data. So who did buy us was a company called AVG. And at the time, AVG is an antivirus company. They've gone public recently. And they had gone around and bought a bunch of smaller security companies. And they really embraced free. They went outside of the box. Traditionally, the model had been, you've got this core piece of your technology, which is free, and then you sort of have these circles around it of other technologies that are paid for. But AVG embraced free and said, look, it's all free. They still had a paid product with support for businesses. But essentially, the consumer product was a robust suite, and as VentureBeat wrote about, they had a free suite in the security space. Now, this creates an interesting dynamic because what do you do now to make money? This is your core technology. This is the ancillary technology that you've purchased, and you're all giving it away. And what AVG has done, and this is from their Q1 filing, they are going into platforms that allow them to acquire customers who don't need security software. So this is a big step outside of their brand. And it's a problem that we should all have, that go public and have 100 million users and need to find ways to make more money. But it's something to keep in mind when you're starting out. Where is the paywall going to be? What is going to be free, and what are you going to charge for? And eventually, this was not a roadmap thing, but basically you get to the point where your core technology, your core asset, your developers, none of that is driving revenue. And you've got to find the thing that does drive revenue. So on the paywall side, currently I'm advising a company called Freemium. They've got a consumer cloud play, and originally they come out with a photo link application. Facebook app had 150,000 users in the first month. Getting money from those guys was brutal. We were going out and cutting partnerships. You can print your photos on the coffee mugs. You can make a calendar. It just wasn't working at the rate you needed, and it was incredibly inefficient because it wasn't core to our business. Every deal you had to go out and cut with somebody, and it just wasn't working. So they were able to pivot and basically refocus the feature sets. Essentially the exact same technology, reskin the UI, and come up with a really smooth paywall where, similar to SurveyMonkey, that you have the core piece for free, and then it's a usage model. The more you use, the more you pay. The more you need, the more you will pay. And this is a huge step forward for the company. The idea of being able to see You know, we can get users, but the realization that we are never going to make a dime from any of these people, that's kind of hard. You know, you have this great hockey stick slide in your VC presentation, but at a certain point you've got to look that money has to come from somewhere. And you know, unless you've got huge investment, you can burn through all the cash. So finding out how you're going to set that up, it's so funny. Finding out how you set that up is really one of the things that you should do early on before you jump in. All right, so a quick recap. What have we learned? Don't get ratted out on the Wall Street Journal. Selling mugs and calendars to Facebook users is not as easy as it sounds. And third, software is like sushi. Thank you. You guys have any questions? Any questions? What's the conversion rate?
No. This might be an obtuse question. So, I didn't hear the whole news article this morning, but there was something on NPR about free apps, especially in the mobile space, having a lot of tracking information in them, which would then potentially be used for whatever you can do in the marketing stuff.
Yeah.
How do you see something like that or that emerging or whatever affect the whole freemium play? That's really a broad-based question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's funny. That's a great question. It started out when I was doing this 12 years ago at a security company. They were so paranoid about what we could do and what we couldn't do. We were really sort of flying blind. We had all this data that we could have collected, but they weren't collecting it for security reasons, and we were making assumptions. Then slowly it went towards anonymized data that would be stored, and this is industry-wide, that would be stored for a period of time. And now, it's over. I mean, it's over. Everybody does it. Everybody collects everything they can get their hands on. Google basically broke the law to get around the iOS tracking on the phones. Everybody does it. It's still, you can make a decision that you're not going to do it, but your competitors will. And the volume of data they collect is astonishing, not only about you, but about your friends.
So, if you're looking at a freemium model, how might you differentiate yourself perhaps between like a white hat and a black hat type of provider?
Yeah, that is interesting. I think there are some companies popping up around in the social network space, in the advertising space, that are branded around privacy and protection. But at the end of the day, it's up to the customer whether they care or not. And it's a great thing to talk about and a great thing to write about. I don't see people being that, and this is, I've spent my whole, the last 12 years in consumer security. People just don't really care anymore.
Okay, so thanks very much, Chris, and of course you'll be able to ask him more questions when we move to the panel.